We are on air.
Right, hello everyone. Welcome to another packed Build Working Group meeting, which is great to see. Today we have George Adams, I'm guessing, Yoao, John, Kyle, Michael, Raphael, Rich, Rod, and myself, Gibson. Incredible. So, shall we start with a quick stand-up? In that order, I guess it's George first.
Okay, yeah, so not a huge update from me. I spent a little bit of time continuing the work on the Mac OS Ansible playbooks. We've sort of been getting the final steps done now with Ccache and stuff, so that hopefully we can properly add the variants of at least 10, 10 and above to the build farm. Other than that, I had a very quick look at a link Michael Dawson sent me about some of the compiler stuff on PPCLE. And apparently we want to Ansibilize that a bit more, so I've been going through some of that.
Cool. Yoao?
I've been working on using Visual Studio 2017 to release Node. The release machines are ready to use, and I'll move forward with adjusting the test CI to not use earlier versions to test Node v10.
Cool.
Not
John?
sure who's next.
John, on my screen anyway.
Hi, I've been working on the GitHub status lights, which I think are all fixed now. I don't think there's been an issue in a few days. And then I'm also working on some pipeline stuff.
Cool. Kyle?
Not too much to report on my end. I was out for 3 months, so I'm back now, and I'm starting to look at some Docker stuff for Chakra Core. Trying to get some Docker images, essentially similar to how Node produces them today.
Great. Michael?
So worked with George on getting the Mac OS infrastructure in place so that we could deploy the Ansible scripts and configure them. Created a job so that we could start testing those, and also working on the addition of the ZOS machines and getting the libuv regression tests working on those. So those are now actually in green. So that's done. A little bit lately, work on the PPC compilers, and I think those are the main things.
Cool. Raphael?
I've been doing mostly well, a lot of maintenance and incidents follow-ups. Started a follow-up on where we stand on the GCC upgrades, where it's possible, and what we're missing. Done a few tweaks on a few jobs where there were bugs. Also, I'm working a little bit touching the build scripts in Node Core, both to make and VisiBuild to get things a little bit more fluid. You know, that's about it.
Cool. Rich?
Sorry. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I thought I was muted, but I wasn't. Fabulous. Yeah, so mostly just getting back into my old habit that I dropped of babysitting the tests a bit more. I'm particularly interested in finding a solution to the inspector tests that are sort of permanently flaky on Windows. And I don't know if the right thing to do is to try to round up some Microsoft people or some Google people because it's V8 inspector type stuff, or both. But if anybody either listening or here has strong opinions about the right way to go about getting those tests actually fixed so we can have a green CI again, feel free to get in touch with me because I'll do whatever I can to help.
Cool. That leaves me. So this last couple of weeks, I had a quick look at the macOS stuff with George, and I've been playing with the pipelines a bit as well. Most recently, trying to do a CMake job for Ben, who's testing a Forker node which has CMake enabled, which kind of ties into allowing more flexibility in our builds. So that's passing in a different config flag. So looking at maybe we could allow people to run node test commit with custom flags. Yep, that's about it for build. Cool. So onto the agenda. First thing here is the OSX info walkthrough, which I think is George. Michael?
I was going to suggest maybe we should leave that till the end because it could use up all the time.
Sounds good. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Okay,
Yeah.
so last on the list is that. So in that case, the next one is providing read access to our CI Node.js configs. So yeah, I raised this. Basically, you can enable read access to Jenkins configuration stuff so people can actually see how our jobs work. You turn on the option by passing a flag to Jenkins when you run it, and then you can choose in the security matrix to enable it for people. So I guess the question is, does anyone think we shouldn't have it enabled?
So I mean, it's probably worth mentioning at this point that I've used it a little bit at the adoptive and GDK farm. We haven't seen any immediate issues. It's a bit odd in that any user can click on the configure tab and it kind of allows them to edit things, but there's just not an update button. So it's a little bit quirky, but it seems to work.
How about we do have some keys, I think, which are configured in some of the jobs. Does it let you see those?
Yes, but you could mitigate that by, so I'm not sure if we have it in this Jenkins, but in our Jenkins, IBM Jenkins, you can have set password parameters which are hashed and not visible. And then you can use that as an environment variable elsewhere in the pipeline. So we might be able to work around those problems. And also you can enable it on a per job basis. So we should check before we start.
Yeah, like
right.
as we're choosing jobs to be read through all the scripts to make sure there's not stuff that's going to fall out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering, can we get a link to the OpenJDK Jenkins so that we can see what it looks like for an
I'll stick it in the chat if you. I'll
That'd be great.
It in the chat.
Maybe in the issue as well.
Yeah, I'm +1 on this as long as we confirm that it's fine. Like if OpenJDK is using it, I would presume that means it's fine.
As
And
long
that
as
we do audit of scripts for keys and anything sensitive.
Yeah, as long as we don't expose anything we don't want to, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I would expect all that sensitive stuff is on our release Jenkins anyway. So
there's a bunch, I don't know how sensitive it is, but there's like there's at least one ID that we use for that intermediate relanding of things, right?
yeah, there's actually two users that we use for stuff. One's for security and one's for triggering jobs. But they've got keys in the Jenkins key storage thing. So if we do the open thing, there are a couple of jobs that we don't have publicly accessible. I would assume that they wouldn't be made accessible. Is this on a per job basis or?
Yeah, it's you've used the job configuration matrix, right? It's just literally another drop down in there that you can turn on.
Right. Okay. If it's per job, that's brilliant. Then we can actually audit each one and open them one by one. It sounds good.
Yep.
Yeah, if you've got the manual job override, then you don't actually have those issues.
Yep. Cool. So any agreements?
I think we kind of me and Gibson kind of jumped on, like, whenever somebody is asking from the group is asking for edit access to jobs, we open up the job for the entire working group. So I think like there are like 5 or 6 jobs that have edit permissions for the working group.
The build working group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, but like, I thought you meant for like the Sigin working group and.
No, you're talking about core jobs. So, like Joy saying, "Can I edit the libuv test commit job because I want to add whatever function?" Basically saying, unless it's unless there's a reason not to.
Yeah, but it might be best if you do that on a per user basis, or maybe add a new team we can temporarily put people in and out of that has access.
For individuals, okay. I figured for the build working group, we're usually pretty.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, also I think the main motivation was for read access more than.
Oh, okay. Yep.
But yeah, I agree. Well, ideally, all the jobs that aren't, any new jobs should be pipelines in GitHub, and then we can pull request.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would expect that any of you folks that have Jenkins admin access have enough sense to decide, who's trustworthy and how much access to give. But we just need to make sure that maybe we record what we're doing, so we've got an audit trail, and try and keep it as limited as sensible. And I guess if it's a build working group, then although you might somebody might want to check the build working group membership list, because it's probably been a while since we flushed out some inactive people.
Might be a good time. I can take a action to raise an issue afterwards and print out the list. And Johan did one a while ago, right, where he said if you still want to be in, leave a comment. That might be a good way to do it. Okay. Any more for that one? Nope. Okay, so the next one is the Ubuntu non-LTS strategy. Rod, I guess this is one for you.
So I think the proposal was to, what was it? Yeah. So I know we're balancing a couple of things here. We're balancing this desire to keep as many distributions and architectures around as possible, so that we can just have a broad test range. But we are bumping up against a lot of machines to both maintain, but also it's a big ask for some of our infrastructure providers. Like, we are stretching them. No one's complained, but I don't want us to get to the point where somebody does complain. So I want us to just keep it within reason. I think we need to look at each of our strategies for our platforms. And so one of them is, hang on a second. Sorry. Ubuntu, I think, is an easy one because their strategy is easy to follow. So my proposal is that we keep all of the active LTS lines open, and we may even consider pushing that into their extended LTS period. So they're now doing their extended LTS across all of they're expanding it across to everything, because it's been so successful apparently. So that's the LTS plus another period. I don't know what it is. So that we can decide that separately. I think 1204 is probably coming up for that discussion. It's still in extended, I think, or it's going to be.
So does that mean that it's longer than the normal LTS cycle? Is that the only difference?
Yeah, you pay. It's like RHEL. You pay for extra support, and you get updates in their extended period. Apparently, that's working really well for them. It's quite successful in terms of a money-making exercise. Anyway, I think that's a separate discussion, because it's LTS for now. Let's just say LTS, public LTS, and then there's the point releases in between, and they lose support after I think it's 9 months. It's like not very far past their 6-month life anyway. So every .10 and every odd .4 doesn't have LTS. They just drop off, and so I would like us to drop them off too. There's just no sense in keeping them around, because they're not LTS. They never would intended to have a long life. So if people are using them as LTS, then that's a bad idea. And upgrading is straightforward. So then we can cycle our machines better and not have this huge growth of machines, because every 6 months adding a new set of machines gets out of hand. So I'd like us to be able to retire the non-LTS ones within a few months of them dropping off. I think there was agreement in that issue that that was a fine thing to do. I went ahead and did it anyway for 1704.
I think I agree in general for the power machines and machines. We might need to tweak a little bit just because they're the ones we build the releases on.
Yeah, we never build releases on non-LTS.
Yeah.
So this is about the non-LTS thing. So it came up because 17. I think we had 17. No, we had 1610 in there when I opened this issue. This is November. That was July. It was EOL. So 16.4 is LTS. The next LTS is 18.4. So we should just keep on migrating until we get to 18.4. Then we have a couple of machines, at least 2 machines that we keep active for many years.
Yep, sounds good to me.
Anyway, look, just drop a note in that if you have any other thoughts on it.
Cool, that seems pretty non-controversial.
Cool.
Next one is, I'm guessing, another Rod one, removing the ARM64 X-Gene servers from CI.
Was there any comments on this from anyone? I just closed my browser.
How can we still see you?
No, in my other browser where I had all the tabs open with the issues. Sorry, 2 browsers. So X-Gene servers, these were the ones that were donated by ARM themselves. They sent us 3 X-Genes, and they were like prototype machines. And so they're in these 1U rack units, and they're not very efficient on power. They're noisy. They helped us get ARM v8 support, ARM64. So they were crucial. But since then, we have now got Packet.net providing proper server ARM64 machines. And I also need to follow up with Scaleway because they were offering ARM64 as well. ARM v8, I just haven't followed that up. So I would like to retire those machines. There's 3 of them in my garage. They're noisy, they suck power, and they were prototypes anyway. The only thing that we might want to hesitate on was that they are running Ubuntu 14.04. So it was like, this was the first version of Ubuntu that they got ARM64 support on, because that was before 16.04 was out. And so they're like some of the oldest ARM64 OSs, I think, that we have access to. That's the only reason we might hesitate, but we're not building releases on them. Yeah.
And can we not get those older OSs on the other alternatives?
No, because I think the way I understand it is 14.04. I don't know if it officially supports ARM v8. It was more like that was their on-ramp to ARM v8, and now everyone is using 16.04. That's my understanding. I could be wrong. We just have numbers on ARM adoption, so I don't know. But no, we could use VMs or containers if we wanted to have it that far back. But yeah.
So what you're saying, in a sense, is that it's an operating system that doesn't have any hardware out there, except for the X-Genes.
There's probably more than that. Actually, I'm running this issue now that I've got my browser loaded. We are running CentOS 7 on PacketNet, and if I do a quick libc look.
In terms of kernel levels?
Yeah, the CentOS 7 is before Ubuntu 14 on both.
Yeah.
I checked it. Yeah, amazingly.
So yeah, if we've got CentOS 7 support, then we've actually got good libc and kernel coverage that predates 14.04. Yeah, I wrote that in the issue. I wrote all this. There it is. Okay. So, are there any concerns there at all?
Not for me.
It sounds like you're saying this isn't something people like to be running. So,
no.
Also, yeah, I'd say, don't scrap them for a month or so.
Yeah.
I can take them out of the mix, and I mean they're not going anywhere. Like I'm not going to throw them out there. There's something historical about them that makes me not want to turf them. But if maybe we come up with a new use for them, maybe I ship them somewhere else. I don't know.
The Martha Stewart method is you put a sticker with a date, and if 6 months pass and you don't use it, throw it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, we should move on. But if anyone has any concerns in there, drop it in the issue.
Cool. Next one is a similar one, I suspect, also from Rod. Fedora 22, 23, 24. I guess this is the same question, right?
It's the same question. Well, Fedora is interesting because there's no LTS. I'm not a Fedora user. I just don't. I don't. Okay, there are people that are fanatical about it, so they do use it. But they release every. It's not. They're supposed to be 6 months, but I think it ends up being longer than that. So this is a question about what that moving window is that we want to support. And currently, I think when I opened the issue, we had 22, which is really old. And because 24 was end of life in this August, so 22 is significantly older than that. So I think I ditched. I don't remember what we have now. I ditched some of them and added new ones, and so it's just a question of how many machines we want to bother supporting. I know the preference in there was as long as we can support them, it would be great, but it's a lot of machines.
The issue, you said we ran into an issue. Was it an actual issue that failed because it was Fedora, or was it a setup, or what kind of issue was it?
Still have Fedora 22 in the mix. There we go. I didn't delete them. No, they're still working. They're still fine. It's just a matter of now we've got 22, 23, 20, 26. And 27 needs to be added because that was released, and I believe the infrastructure provider. Okay, so 27 is about to be added. So that means we have five sets of 10 machines to test Fedora. And is that justified, really?
Given that 24 is already end of life.
And if you're using Fedora, you're used to this cycle. It's not like you're hanging out for LTS. You're upgrading or you're not.
I was stretching it with CentOS, which is kind of congruent.
Sort of, yeah. You could argue that.
You mentioned there was a problem. Was the problem to do with Fedora, or was something else?
I don't think so.
I was just wondering, is it actually finding a problem, or is it just a problem because we have to maintain all these machines?
No, I don't. From memory, there's no problem with it.
It was triggered by you adding the new machines, right? And then you looked at what was there and realized we had this long tail.
What triggered this was I went in there and realized that we only had 22, 23, 24, and we were past EOL for 24, and we didn't have anything newer. So, so I went and added 25, 26, and then now 27's out. So it's just the fact that we have to keep up with this, and so somebody has to be conscious of it, and we can't just keep on adding heaps of machines unless we go with this new strategy of using containers and have big machines. And so that's something we could actually argue for is to containerize things that we want to extend the shelf life of. It doesn't really buy us much, but it does minimize the number of virtual machines we're actually using.
Except you still need to be able to run across all the diversity within the one regression test, right?
Yeah, so you're still using the same compute power, but you could do it on bigger machines. So, yeah.
I feel like there's a definite maintenance cost for maintaining. Like every test we run is not just for us, but people have to fix the tests and run CI, and it just piles up.
Yeah.
And if it's something like Fedora, where, as you said, you don't want to be running this in production. This is a test development, updating all the time kind of thing. Sticking to what Fedora themselves say you should be on seems reasonable to me. And if someone asks for Fedora 22, then we could reconsider.
I think it's also reasonable to say, how many Ubuntu machines? If we have 8 of those to support the levels, that's saying that for each particular platform we can only afford a certain envelope. That's a reasonable way to look at it too.
Yeah, I mean, so that would be with Ubuntu, it'd be 8 minimum. So there's 3 LTSs and an active times 2 is 8. We could get into 10 when 18.04 comes out. No, 18.10 comes out. But then we'll have to decide. Maybe we retire 12.4. So, I mean, 8 does seem like a lot. And with Fedora, we're about to get into 10. Like we're great now with Fedora, which is a desktop operating system. It's not even a server operating system. People don't deploy Node on Fedora.
Right. I'm just looking at, does that give us a rationale to say, well, 8 is the max, and when we have to get more than that, we start to roll over?
I'm happy with that. I did. Just my last comment in that thread was that we're running out of space on DigitalOcean. We've got a quota there. I don't really want to go and ask for more quota. I wouldn't mind dropping off 22 when we put 27 on. So maybe that's the window then of 8 machines, and we just keep a rolling window. Is that 8?
Yeah, I think that would be that's something that I could kind of say it's a rationale to say, well, for each platform, we're not treating them any different. We can afford the resources
But at the same time, we should treat them differently, right? Something that's Ubuntu, like LTS Ubuntu release, is something you should be supporting for a long time, whereas a Fedora release is something you shouldn't, right? Like you wouldn't support Arch Linux or something,
Yeah, Arch and Fedora, these really are desktop operating systems. Ubuntu, CentOS, and even Alpine is like these are deployment operating systems. It's a little bit tricky because it's not like Node is only deployed onto the server. It is also used on desktops. So you could argue that desktop operating systems should be first class as well. But the breakdown, I think, the server operating systems, Ubuntu, CentOS, make they're a lot more important. I think I could safely argue that.
And especially older versions that people who haven't updated their production boxes in.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a 1204 box in my garage.
Sure.
I'm thinking if we can make like an educated decision, like see if we had edge case failures on those machines. Like, are they interesting? Are they giving us any coverage at all? Because from what I'm hearing, I would say let's drop Fedora. We have Ubuntu, we have CentOS, and we have Alpine. I think we're getting very nice coverage in terms of kernel and libc.
Yeah, we are. I don't know. Maybe this comes back to that discussion of needing to track our failures better because we just don't. I mean, basically, the best we can do is ask Rich. Rich, are you aware of any persistent failures on older Fedora? Other than that, I don't know how. We don't really have that.
I know. Anecdotally, I can say I've seen CentOS failures. I've seen Ubuntu failures. I don't remember any Fedora like edge cases.
Okay, let's not drop this off the agenda. Maybe we come back to it. Maybe I can formulate a position that I can propose for the next meeting. Along these lines.
I would say that
case,
dropping Fedora completely is not off the table.
But for now, I'm going to drop 22 when we adopt 27, which is, I mean, maybe I'll do that this week. 27 needs to come online, so yeah.
Sounds good. Cool. On that note, next one is removing Ubuntu 12. Is there more to say on that, or is that the same?
Well, yes, the new information on that, I had a chat to an Ubuntu guy last week who talked to me about this whole extended support strategy and how they as a company are really diving into it, like head first. They used to support only the main package pool, but now they're doing not Universe, the one that's bigger than main, because apparently it's working out really popular for them. So it's EOL in April this year. So it's already EOL'd. I don't know. I can't tell you off the top of my head when the extended support ends.
But presumably you said that's multiple years, right?
Yeah. I don't really want to take up heaps of time with this issue, so we could just move on and deal with this.
Yeah, if you've got new information, then it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm less keen now than I was. Okay, I found an article. ESM. 5 years. Long-term support. Okay, look, let's drop this one. I'll revisit it and we'll see if it needs to come back on the agenda for next week.
Sounds
Next
good.
meeting.
Okay. So next one is 941. Make it easier for people to join the build working group. This was kind of comes out of discussions, node automation, you know, a lot of stuff happening there. Idea being that we already split the build working group access into levels of, you know, infra, Jenkins, release, probably more, GitHub bot. So why not just have test be a separate group within build? And then if people want to get involved, we can say, yeah, of course, come on. You know, there's pretty much anyone, you know, if you're, there'll still be a barrier to entry, but if you're already in the Node Foundation, then there would not be a big problem having people join. And then you give people test access later. So just kind of thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking especially if we're moving to either like what John did, scripts that we get into the jobs or pipelines, then we might see a more place for people to help without machine access, which is really nice. You know, even stuff like this, you know, researching, you know, LTS strategies of the different vendors. There are a lot of places within the group that we could use help, and we can give machine access later on.
Right? Did we give people test access automatically when they joined the build work group before? I can't remember.
Yes. That is the current status. That is the status quo.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes total sense to me.
I guess the other thing I note is that...
So what would change with the new idea?
So you'd have a separate group within
As opposed to
build.
what we have
So instead of everyone in build having access to the SSH access to the test machines, you'd have a separate group in build that had that access, which would be everyone who currently has it. And then the build, if someone new joined, they wouldn't automatically get it. And we, you know, they'd sort of get access as they needed it in the same way that that currently works for all the other accesses that we have.
Presumably,
actually,
they'll have right access to the repo.
Build servers. I did not know that. Or I do or I don't?
I think you do. You sent your key to Joao and he added you to the secrets.
Yeah, I think you do. So, but this is the thing, right? We don't really want, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to go on these test machines and fix stuff manually at all. We would have it all automated. I don't think we're there yet, but...
No, I would say that the second thing is that it's not audited. We don't keep track of who's logged in where and what they've done. But like we can give right access to the repo, which is very well audited.
It seems easy to do too, right? Because it just means not adding somebody's SSH key.
Yeah, it's just a doc change.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, and there's people like Nikolai Sation, you know, who've been active, but I'm not sure particularly keen to start managing a whole bunch of machines. So it might also make it an easier thing for people to join. Who knows?
So then if it's just a doc change, do you want to open up a PR and then we can all just take
Sounds
a look?
good. Yep, unless anyone has. Yeah, I kind of just wondered if anyone had any objections. Rod, thoughts? No thoughts?
No objections. No, expanding the group, I love it because we've got so many machines, and the more people that have access that can help us maintain them, the better. And you know, we do a good job of isolating our protected release machines, so I'm more than happy to expand that group to people that have energy to lend. So
sweet, cool. Yeah, I will take the action to raise a PR on that then. Okay, next one is another culling old stuff. One from Rod. This is 926. Should we start getting rid of anything for 0.12 and before?
I think the clear consensus in there was yes, get rid of it, because we've got there's so much IJS stuff hanging around for release. Like we probably don't want to remove the stuff that can let us update the IJS website, which is still in place. But there's all this release cruft in there, and 0.10 and 0.12 as well. it's all through Jenkins. So if we have a collective agreement, and in that issue, I believe we did get agreement, then we as a group have permission to go through Jenkins and anywhere else and remove anything to do with the ability to release those versions, because we're never going to do them. Like we're just not going to release a 10 or 12, 0.10, 0.12 or OJS again. So anything 3.4.
On that note, I just realized I raised a PR to document this, and I think you took it to the TSC. It's 9. It's linked at the bottom.
I was going to ask, should that go to another working group first, just to make sure that that's fine?
I thought, yeah, that was supposed to go to the TSC, wasn't it?
I don't remember ever being on the agenda, at least not more than I was at.
Okay. So maybe
they're meeting tomorrow, so
I think it was in an agenda in a meeting that Rod didn't attend, and they skipped it.
Right.
Okay. All following agendas.
There's 2 people on this call that you can blame for that. We've got Rich and
right, well, they're meeting tomorrow. We want to throw that on there.
We're getting together tomorrow, so.
Okay. Who's going to be at that one?
We will.
Cool. Okay. So if everyone would like to take the action to make sure that it gets discussed.
You open another issue for this?
There's a PR
doc.
If I just take 926 and put it on the agenda, is there anything else we need to do?
No, it's a 997 is it's TSC review. So let's turn it into TSC agenda.
Oh, so
okay. Although we actually have to manually put it on the agenda now.
Okay. Well, can you do that then, or should you want me to edit that?
Yeah. So 997. Let me just find
it's in the chat. Okay, I've put the TSC agenda label on it. So.
All right, cool.
Yeah, if it gets discussed tomorrow, then that should be done. Nice and easy. Right, while Michael's doing that, the next one is 705, investigate a commit queue solution. So, Raphael, why is this?
John reinvigorated it.
Cool.
So I have a local Jenkins job on my machine. It's a pipeline where you give it the ID code, whatever, Node.js /node hash, whatever the number is, and then it will add the refs and reviewed by and all that stuff. My concern is just that there's a lot of commits floating around in PRs that require manual changes and adjustments, and if at some point we decide to move to like an automated thing, then more of the onus is going to be on the contributor to make sure that their stuff is ready to go, since you won't be able to manually edit it, which is kind of like a longer conversation.
What sort of manual edits are we talking about here?
So like if someone for their subsystem it's spelled wrong, or you want to change the commit message, or like squashing, all that kind of stuff, my consensus with myself is I built a CLI tool that will run through most of the steps locally. Then you just commit, squash, amend, whatever, and then you just push from there. That's
I would imagine if we had a process whereby you use Jenkins to do the landing, that you would do those steps up to when you press that whatever button it is on Jenkins.
And then how would you get that branch up to Jenkins? Will you just push? Because GitHub has that checkbox when you open up a PR to allow edits from maintainers, but like some people uncheck it. Does that mean their stuff?
We also don't encourage it because it kind of mangles history. But what you could do is you could push into your own fork and tell Jenkins to pick it up from your fork.
I guess for me, once you start having to do things manually, the benefit of having the automated tool, like at that point, I'd rather have a nice CLI thing that does
that's what I like. I tried to use the Jenkins job, and then I ended up just using the CLI that I built for the Jenkins job just for myself.
Yeah, you kind of want to be dropped in like the rebase directly, and then just write, do you want to squash? No. Here's the commit message.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
It's already got the stuff in.
Put a link to the thing, but what it does is it's like you run whatever the name of the thing is, land, and then you type in the PR, like URL, whatever, then it downloads the patch from GitHub, then it pauses and it says, please make any changes you want. You open up a new terminal window, you amend, you squash, whatever, then you hit, go again, and then it drops in all the stuff into the commit message, like the refs and all that stuff. So I don't know, like that's kind of like a longer conversation about how to like land stuff into
We could start by just having that. Like, how do we get access to that? If we just put that in, could that go in the automation repo and people start using it?
Well, there's already at least one other. I think there's 2 tools now in the automation group that can do.
There's a GitHub repo.
But I guess this wrappers the metadata generator, right, to actually do the whole process for you, the fetch and so it's just one command with a PI URL, and then the rest of it's interactive.
Yeah, basically.
Is this something that we should defer to the automation group?
Is the automation group, that's like a Joey question, is that a thing that's having meetings? Like,
They're more active continuously in GitHub.
Okay.
I think if it was to be in Jenkins, then it would be like we would probably want to get involved because we've just done more of that stuff. But if it's just a command line tool,
well, I mean, maybe that's that's like a gating process. Like, if you can build something that works, then it's we can look at it as a group and say, well, does it pass the various criteria that we would bring to it? And part of that criteria is our experience with having tried this before and failed. And if you've got a better approach that is nice and consistent that we can then enforce on users, then I don't think it's going to be a huge stumbling here. I mean, there might be if you take it to the TSC and the collaborators complain. That's not a thing.
So when I initially brought this issue up, it has two advantages. One is it can queue lands. So essentially, if everything's ready, you just queue the land and you forget about it. And Jenkins will also sanity test it for you. So if anything broke between the point you thought it was ready until it was ready to be landed, it will get rejected. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
So you can queue up 4, 5, 6 commits, PRs, and forget about them. And that's all done in parallel with everybody else.
So you could manually fix up the commit, push it up, and know that Jenkins will handle any rebasing and make sure CI actually ran green, and then land it for you when it's ready in half an hour.
Exactly, especially for things like code learn, or when we do massive length floods. So a commit queue is the motivation behind an automated queue mechanism. And there's Git takes most of its instructions from text files. So if we drop the squash script in the PR and commit message, we can automate almost everything.
I think one problem we had last time is we thought it was an all or nothing, right? So basically, you had the only, the way the job worked was the only way it was going to continue to work was it was used every time. If we could actually come up with a solution where you could, if you wanted to use the commit queue, throw things into that queue, but people could still do things on their own,
maybe
that would be a really good transition.
Maybe you could reserve a slot for a manual landing. You could have a slot for a land via Jenkins, and you could have a slot for a manual land, maybe.
But presumably, if the push failed because someone else already pushed, it would just rebase and push again, right? So could it not just coexist with what we have now?
That's what I'm thinking. I can't remember what the specific reasons were why it was like that, but if we could make it so that it can coexist, then it would be much easier to put it in, to sort of get it in place. And if it becomes the easiest way to do things, it'll just become the de facto standard over time.
Yep, but there'll probably still be weird edge cases like some V8 backport or something where, things are unusual enough that people want to do something else, and then we can incrementally.
And you can even see cases where, the kind of things that some people tend to land are the ones that always end up, I don't know what I mean. Part of the thing was if it flakes on Windows and you have to rerun it 6 times to get it to land, it gets annoying, right? So it's I could see that for some people maybe the queue will work well because they're lucky or something, or some people are less lucky than others, but or for whatever reason, some will really like it and some will like just want to do it manually. So if we could do that, I think that would be. And I can't remember well enough to know if that's just hopeful thinking and we just couldn't do it last time, or there's really some fundamental.
The main problem last time was that CI was horribly unreliable. I mean, the tests were bad. CI was bad. We're in a lot better place now, but we're not where we need to be though. We still need to get a lot better.
The part I don't remember is why. Like I think basically if somebody did a manual land, it would screw up the job, and so you couldn't have both going on at the same time.
Yeah, it's because we rebased. We always rebased on top of the master and force pushed that, or something like that. It was basically it was this brute force rebase push, and if you did a push in between that process of, okay, we've checked out the master and put your changes on top of the current master, tested that, then that is what we're pushing to the repo. It's that period of testing between what we checked out and landed and put back onto the repo. If something happens in between that, then yeah. But yeah, I mean, we could actually still make it optional, but
yeah, I mean,
but it will fail. We'll fail.
We could also fail the jobs and restart them. Like even watch the repo. If a push came in, you failed the job, restart it.
And then we could just encourage people onto this new process because, hey, you're kind of making a mess for people by pushing in between these, so maybe you should use the new process. But if we can make it opt-in, but with a path to push people towards it.
And so the reason it has to break is because you want to make sure you're actually testing what the commit hash, like the commit hash you will be pushing to master.
Right. Which is also, wishful thinking because that's, we don't accommodate for that scenario right now. If two people are landing at the same time, they're not.
So maybe if we just don't worry about that for now and just do what CI currently does, which is rebase on latest master and you push and you hope it works then, or maybe do like a lint or something. And then we can, once everyone's using the queue, then it was easy enough to say, now you have to be CIing on the right hash.
I mean, I think that we would be worth passing by the TSC because I suspect when it comes to Git hygiene, the TSC is going to have a lot of opinions.
But that isn't any worse than what we have now, right?
I know it's not, but you make that argument to the TSC.
Okay.
You could also do a post run. Like it could be incrementally better in the fact that, like, okay, it does the same thing as the people are doing manually today. Do a run and you'll know if that broke things, so that it points out, instead of us waiting and finding and having to go back and say, well, okay, somebody pushed something that actually got broken by the earlier one, we'd actually know exactly which commit that happened on.
Yeah. Look, if somebody wants to propose a strategy here, then write it out and propose how you're going to achieve it. And we can surface that to other people that may stand in the way. Like, let's get the discussion happening.
Sounds good. Sounds like John, you've John got the furthest along.
Go for it.
Yeah.
And if you want to, I would suggest roping in people from the automation working group as well, because there's an interest in that.
Yep.
Yeah. My concern is that a lot of stuff with landing is very manual changes. So I'm a little bit hesitant to want to move that all to Jenkins and move it all away. That's why, what I built for myself, whatever, is more of just an automated shell tool. Okay. Just a better CLI that may end up trying to have the same outcome of just making it seem like the goal is to make it to be not as hard to land PRs, right? That's what the end goal is, or the end goal is to say, I want to land this, and then you go buy coffee, whatever, you come back and it's been landed. They're not the same thing.
Well, so the original goal when we had when we tried it was we wanted to make sure that our Git tree was as clean as possible, and so people forgetting to put metadata in or putting incorrect metadata was always annoying. It always still is annoying. So having Jenkins do it meant that we had some reliable consistency, and also gating it on do the tests pass, actually making that a mandatory thing with tooling. So with regard to having to do manual things, I mean, if what we did before was simply you do your PR and do what you need to do, whether you have commits to squash, you test it until it's ready to go. then you just press the Jenkins button. You know, start the job with the PR number, and then it'll do the rest for you, including metadata and landing. That would be fine.
Okay.
That's so you're responsible for getting it up to that point of pressing that button, including which commits are going to go into it.
But yeah, John, it sounds like if you maybe raise an issue somewhere, I'm guessing here or automation, and we can just hash through these and see what other people outside the working group think.
Mm-hmm.
I also think your suggestion of like a script that helps you do things in a standardized way, even if we still have to do it, a script that helps us do it the standard way is a good step towards getting there. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you should try it out, right? I think John says it's working. He just posted it.
Yeah, that's why I've been using to land all my PRs into Node and into the build repo. Is I've been trying to use it locally on my machine, and then that's also what the Jenkins job uses.
Okay, where did you just post it in the chat or somewhere else?
I just reposted it in the chat.
Yeah, it's reposted there.
At the bottom.
Yeah,
It's starting to run a little bit late, but if after the OSX and the Blue Ocean, if you want me to like land a PR and you can watch me like land it, whatever, using it, that's fine. But
why not? People want to hang around.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Right. I think that's plenty of that.
Yeah.
Continue that discussion.
Yeah.
So next one is 1030. Michael's versions of OSX to support. I think I see a theme developing here. So we have an actual bug on the earlier versions of 10.10 and 10.9.
10.10 is fixed from, is it 10.10.3 and up?
Don't even. Don't.
10,
I'm binge watching.
5?
My parents are Sky.
Great.
I'm not sure which level we went to.
It's 10.10.5. I think has
Right,
it.
okay.
But anyway, given that it's Mac OS and everyone is on 10.13, and we have never actually tested these older versions. I'd be strongly 10.11 plus. I think Rich just said same. Yes. Any objections to having 10.11 as our minimum?
I was going to say 10.10. Look, this is
Or 10.10.
This is something you need to pass by the TSC because last time we did this, and I was going to say this in the issue, but I'll not say it. So Ben Nordhaus tends to run on older versions of OS X, and the last time this came up, it was like he was still running 10.7. And so, there are people that run older ones. The pipe, as I said in the issue, the pipeline for upgrading is much better now, but we've got to pass it by the TSC. So
sure.
If you want to propose 10.11, I'm fine with that. Like, just propose it in a pull request. And
we currently build on 10.10, right?
Okay, so maybe let's start with 10.10. I think so. If we stay 10.10.5, if we stay on the latest 10.10, then we avoid the bug that we hit before with the inspector.
Yeah, basically everything 10.10 and above all works fine. So that would kind of be my suggestion as a starting point.
Yep. Okay. So I guess we could just, given we don't currently have 10.8 and 10.9 machines in CI, well, we could just not add them, or do you think that needs an actual TSC proposal, Rod?
Oh, don't add them until the TSC says, yeah, we like if the TSC comes back and says, no, we would really like 10.8, then sure, we can add them, but like don't add them, don't do any work on that until, because we seem to have a flow going where the TSC is trusting the build working group a lot more to make these kinds of calls. And so if we assert that that's our opinion, 10.10 is the minimum, we shouldn't test any before that. Yeah. Yeah, the TSC could do some delegation, but...
So it's not actually work. I guess it's like, and it's distinct from the what's supported, right? I think we haven't said that 10.8 won't work. This just that we've never tested it, and if we don't change anything, we still won't test it.
Well, that's essentially experimental then, isn't it? That's the thing we had with the 32-bit as well.
Yep.
So it's the same discussion. So we just need to have that discussion.
It's written down as experimental. We officially support only 10.10.
Yeah.
That's what it is already? Okay.
Yep.
If that's what it is already, let's roll with it then. Yeah.
Cool. That's easy then. So let's not add 10.8 and 10.9 and make sure 10.10's on the latest version.
Easy. Well, and then that gives us more resources on with our available hardware, doesn't it?
Yep.
That's fantastic.
all these new Macs. Cool. Okay, I'll comment on this in a bit, and that should be good. So that is all of our existing stuff. So given that it's right on the hour, we better move to questions, and then people can drop off if they need to go.
We were going to do a walkthrough of the OS X stuff.
Yeah, so I thought we'd do that after.
After,
Yeah, I
okay.
suppose that we, I don't think that's urgent.
Hmm.
I would say we won't refer to a meeting where, we're not asking people to stay an hour later.
Yeah, okay. So are there any questions either in the issue or on IRC? And
Maybe
while we
next meeting we do a bit of work to try and get things off the agenda to make some space for demoing.
Nothing
usually
in the
don't
issue,
have
nothing
any
on
issues.
Sorry. Michael and...
I was just going to say, we usually don't have this many issues.
Yeah, yeah. And,
I said no questions on IRC, no questions in the issue.
Okay, that sounds done then. Okay, so if we postpone the macOS thing till next time,
okay.
walk through. That sounds reasonable.
That would be good to have a link to the recording of when we do it, so that people can review that, because it's complicated. That's Xserve stuff is just horrific.
And it may take, it may take more than once. The idea was just to go through some, I hadn't prepared anything, just to go through some stuff, generate questions, and then we could iterate on that. The Blue Ocean review, John, is that quick? I wonder if we want to get that in.
No, that's pretty quick. So, okay, so let me share.
Let's go.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So Blue Ocean is the new UI thing for Jenkins. Right now it's just a plugin which is installed, and the idea is that it's mainly focused on pipelines. You can't access any freestyle jobs from this, because pipelines are way of the future for Jenkins, which we're moving towards. So this is the homepage. And then you can see all the pipelines and the health and stuff. And then the one I've been working on is the libuv pipeline. So then if you go to the libuv pipeline, you can see the latest runs and the status, the duration, completed, whatever. So this is the most recent one. And then the best thing about the Blue Ocean UI is that it shows you all of the different, it's one column per OS type thing. So you have the AIX is here, FreeBSD, Linux, SmartOS, OS X, and Windows, and you can see per machine what the status is in a much easier way. And then you can also see all of the different logs and stuff here, which makes it much easier.
How did you get them to, are they running in parallel, all those platforms?
Yeah, so this is another pipelines thing. I'm not sure if you want to talk about this now, but
If
the way
it's
that
in the pipeline, I can just go look at the syntax. But I just
the way that pipelines work is that you can only have one set of requirements in parallel. So what that means is that, for example, we have all the different OSs. So you could have all the OSs be in parallel, meaning they're not dependent on one after the other. But then the per box, so the ARM BZWeezy CentOS 532, that would not be in parallel. So you would be waiting machine by machine for it to go. So it's kind of a weird constraint, because right now for not pipelines, for just the freestyle jobs, both things are in parallel, both the OS and the individual boxes. But with this, you can only have one. So I chose to have the individual boxes be in parallel and wait per each platform, which is kind of a separate discussion we need to have about if that's okay for our use case or not, because that could lead to some long build times. If Linux is taking a while, if those machines are very heavy, then you won't get to SmartOS, OS X, Windows. That can make a long build time.
But I think if you think of our Node one, where every platform takes, well, not everyone, but many of them take 30 minutes, that would take our are 30 minutes up to like 3 or 4 hours, which I don't think anybody's gonna.
Yes. So you need to remember that what we do in Node is we multiplex it 2 times. We have a multi-job that runs all the platform jobs in parallel,
exactly.
and then each job parallelizes the parameters. So it's like a multi-pipeline.
So
Yeah,
what stops you from running arbitrary numbers of things in parallel?
Jenkins. It only lets you run one set of constraints in parallel. So I tried to do the boxes and the platforms in parallel, and it said no, you can't do that.
Is that and using
let you do one set of constraints.
So there are two, as I understand it, there are two completely different pipeline syntaxes, like declarative and scripted. One of which is easy but limited in features, and it's the one we actually declare pipeline with brackets. And the other is the old school pipelines where you can run arbitrary groovy things. At least with triggering downstream jobs, I found you can, pretty much have as many as you want. So maybe this is anyway.
Yeah, I use the first one just because it lets you have these nice charts and stuff that show you the statuses and stuff.
Right.
But in general, with Jenkins, with the pipelines, you can either have the platforms run in parallel and then have the boxes be one following the other, or you can have the platforms be not parallel, have them follow each other, and then have the individual boxes be parallelized.
Okay.
So we just need to figure out if that works for us or how we're gonna keep moving forward. That's why I wanted to do with the libuv, because that's not that hard to port over, and because that's gonna inform how we choose to go forward with the node test commit stuff.
So we could at least start by just running, swapping out node test pull request and node test commit for pipe, or just for one pipeline, right? Because they trigger downstream jobs, and it's easy enough to trigger a job from a pipeline. So you could get the same functionality.
For node test commit, you want to have there be a pipeline, and then the pipeline would trigger the sub. Yeah, because you could do that. That's how it is right now with all the jobs. Is for each platform it's a separate job, and then you have the sub configuration, like Raphael was saying. It wouldn't all be in. You start to lose the whole point of the pipeline, and part of the point of the pipeline is that it's all on one page.
Sure.
It's all in one spot.
That would also be a more incremental way of you could just have that one pipeline you could add in parallel, and then you could see how it works, and then maybe switch over and not have to touch all the jobs at once, because collating all the job logic, which is a bit messy and mostly the same, but has subtle differences into one set of scripts, that's going to be,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I would also hope that maybe we could ask Jenkins. I mean, I know the pipeline's pretty new. If this is a big use case, being able to run, like a multi-configuration style job, we might be able to ask them to just, if it's on their roadmap, or get it added.
Yeah, there's an open Jira ticket, and the last comment was a few months ago. So I was thinking about if that was something which it sounds like we want to be able to do, that I was going to comment, or I don't know if we know people at Jenkins, whatever, that can bring this up, but.
Don't think we do. Yeah, I think commenting on tickets is probably a good way to go. So this generates workspaces and runs the jobs on all the individual machines, and it's all just in this job, right? All these.
Yeah, it's all in one giant pipeline. Yeah. And then the nice thing about that is you can click on Win10 whatever, and then it shows you whatever it is, OSX, and you can. Man, it's being slow. You can see all of the individual stuff and nice pull out things, and it's very pretty. You can see all that stuff.
What separates it into those different settings? Are they different scripts?
Yeah, it's each of the command things, shell script,
Right.
logging out.
And I guess the other question is, how well does this handle massive? Because this is going to be one view.
I was just thinking that.
Jenkins already struggled.
I haven't even opened up a PR for libuv test pipeline because it's 500 lines. It's a lot, and most of it is just saying the same thing over and over and over again.
Oh no, sorry, I meant for when you're looking at the Blue Ocean view of all the tap results for every platform, and that's all loaded in one page. that seems like it could.
It uses Ajax, I think, to pull out each of the different things.
Okay, so it's not loading
Yeah.
at all.
No. Yeah.
Cool, because when I've used Blue Ocean before, it's just been really slow, and I haven't got on with it just because of that. Which is why I was hoping there was. Yeah. Okay, but if it works, then that's good news.
Jenkins is restarting. That's great.
If you are thinking of a PR for you, I just noticed you must have started before we added ZOS there. So.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. The ZOS uses a shell that's custom, whatever. It's not just using the normal bash, and I was actually having trouble having that to work with the pipeline stuff. So I'm not sure if you want to connect on that at some point, but it was being very...
Yeah, we probably should. It has to run a it uses the regular shell, but then has to like run a pre-shell thing to be able to handle all the character conversions and all that.
Yeah, like I was getting like character errors, like it didn't, and I was like,
sounds like we should get a ZOS expert to look at it.
Yeah, I think if we can connect to John Barbosa, that would make sense.
Yep.
So, but yeah, you ping me and we can get the discussion there because we do want to figure that part out.
Yeah, like I was gonna open up a PR with the libuv test pipeline stuff in like the next couple like days or so. I just wanted to get people's thoughts about trying to parallelize the platforms and the boxes and how to handle that, because I don't want to blow up like job times by a lot.
Yeah. No, that's
it's good to and it's good to figure that out now with libuv before we go on to no test commit, which is like gigantic.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense to get feedback. I wouldn't want to land until we figure out the ZOS part since we just got that in. But.
So the other question is, where would you PR it? Would you PR it to libuv? Because it's like a libuv Jenkins file, right?
I was going to put it in Node.js build, the Jenkins pipelines folder thing we have going on, which seemed to be working out okay. I was just going to put it there.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense for core stuff, but I'm just wondering for these smaller projects, if they're only going to have one, does it make sense for it to be like the travis.yaml? Because I think Jenkins, like the idea with this stuff is it goes in your repo like a YAML file.
I was just going to say to keep it in build, because not that we shouldn't trust the downstream projects, but I wouldn't want someone to edit something in the Jenkins file without speaking to like the build group, because they might not know like the exact stuff of like what they're doing.
That's true. You're giving that group power.
And to make sure, because if it blows up on them, it's either way, it's going to have to come back to us because it's
Yep.
Still Jenkins.
That makes sense actually.
Yeah.
I would say much later on when we figure everything out. That's actually a nice idea that we can have like a versioned Jenkins file and load it Travis style, like for the LTS lines, etc. Instead of having ifs in our script, have multiple files.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like an endpoint, I think, though, right?
Yeah.
Not to start off with.
No.
And for the no test commit thing, I think the first thing would be to just continue taking the scripts out of the config and putting them in GitHub as shell.
Yeah,
I guess the other thing
I did.
Sorry, go on.
No, I started to. There's a thing, a shell script that landed like a few days ago, a week or two ago, that pulled out most of the pre stuff that was common to all the jobs. That's already like starting to take form.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, if we could continue, hopefully most of what's in there should be pull-outable. And the other thing is, so you've got them as shell scripts in the pipeline file itself right at the moment. That presumably means you lose...
Yeah, if you want, I can...
Yeah, I just had a look at the pipeline. So I was wondering, how easy is it to have them as separate files in the build repo and then just like pull them out at runtime?
Is that something we want?
Well, I don't know.
Like, is that so common that it used to be pulled out?
I would say if it's not Ruby or a pipeline, then there's not a huge win. Even syntax highlighting wise. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, writing shell inside Groovy scripts when I've done it has, like, without the highlighting and without the ability to run linters on it, and often, I mean, a lot of our stuff, it'd be nice if people could run it manually.
Oh, you mean to pull out the shell scripts that we're running?
Yes. Sorry, anything that's like triple ticks.
Yeah, that makes sense. We can look, most of it's pretty short commands, but some of the stuff is a little bit longer, that might make sense. Yeah.
Because I think the other advantage is you could then share those across Java, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
like, we're already starting to pull out part of it, so hopefully you can share it, and then those things you can probably share in the pipeline.
But yeah, looks good. I would raise the PR earlier rather than later. Like, don't wait for people to check it out. Raise the PR first, and then we can discuss. But yeah, if you're putting it in the build repo, that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably anyone can go have a look at the, so build have access to
yeah, I guess my comment about with landing was only if we were actually going to change the libuv job. If we're not using it, landing is fine until we're still refining it.
Yeah. So we should speak to like the libuv, like Ben and Colin at some point for when this is getting much closer to like working the way that we want it to work it.
Yeah.
Yep.
When it's all good.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any more from anyone?
Oh, I have a quick just like an announcement thing. There were a bunch of like personal jobs that were in Jenkins that seem to have not been used for a long time. I opened up an issue if people can just go look. I haven't checked it in like a little while, but
I think I covered all mine. So if there's any that you think are me still, let me know.
Yeah, clean up your stuff. Good idea. Cool. All right, then. Thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Rich wanted to say something about the task force for keeping the test in line.
Oh, did he?
No, I think I said it at the beginning. I think
Okay.
I could repeat myself if you want, but
Yeah, please.
That. Yeah, we have some stubborn tests that require some expertise in
V8.
It's
just the inspector ones.
Well, those are the big ones. There's a few others in the shared library / debug ones, but like Anna and a few other people are on those. I'm not too worried that I think a solution is might have already landed today. I'm not sure, but the Windows inspector ones are really troubling because there's no one person who has all the expertise needed.
Evgeny is working on them, and I'm helping him, and Bezos is helping him, so they're not neglected.
That's right. What's his handle?
Evgeny, the guy who takes care of
the guy who does the inspector stuff, who works for Google, right?
For Google.
Ostrakov? Yeah. That guy.
Eugene, yeah.
It's Evgeny.
This thing is like I'm not sure that it's a the things I'm not sure that it's a something that
I know he is actively pursuing it.
Great.
And Bezos is helping him.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect then. Yeah, that's a good combination. Cool. Thanks.
Excellent. On that note, see everyone next time. Cheers.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.